Everyone, my name is Jacob Fohtung. Based on the last video, one of the videos on my YouTube channel, I shared 10 rules on how to have a perfect pitch. So at the end of the video, I mentioned that I'm gonna provide an example of a perfect pitch in quotations. I believe this can be a very good framework for people to follow. And I know there's certainly ways to adjust based on the audience and the conference that you're attending or the type of pitch you're attending. Some investors are more stringent on some aspects of your pitch. You know, they need more numbers. Some might need more of a story. But I think as a baseline, you have to be very clear. You have to have a very good, interesting story, and you have to be talking. We have to talk from a place of an in-depth understanding of what you're trying to present. And hopefully the 10 rules on how to pitch is a reasonable framework for you to have some sense of understanding on how to be a better pitch presenter, right? So this is an example that I promised in the other video. If you go on my YouTube channel, there's one video about 10 rules on how to have a perfect pitch. So I'm responding to my own request to provide a good an example of a perfect pitch. So this is a proposal of Jamani Academy Consulting Platform, which is a platform within Jamani Corporate Group. And just to give you a background story, Jamani Corporate Group is a conglomerate of platforms that aim to provide in-depth research, consulting, and investing in emerging markets with the primary focus on Africa, right? So we hope to provide, an education piece that we call Jamani Inclusive, where people, it's kind of education and networking called Jamani Inclusive, where people come together and we talk about interesting ideas, trends in Africa, and just connect, right? We have Jamani Stories, which is the podcasting / the blog where I write about interesting people I've met in emerging markets and some of the interesting entrepreneurial theories that is shaping the way people think in Africa, the entrepreneurial journeys in Africa. And we also have the YouTube channel, right, that I present some of these presentations and some of these interesting findings that can help someone out there to understand more about Africa. Then we have Jamani Academic Consulting, which is the platform we aim at connecting experts in the Western world with young entrepreneurs on the African continent. And this is a very exciting piece. We started it a while ago, then it went dormant, but we are trying to get this going again in 2021. Then the last one is Jamani Ventures, which is going to be the VC fund, and that is something that we are. When I say we, have a co-founder Joseph, who is based in Uganda. So we are actively thinking of how can we slowly get into the VC fund space. It's very tricky, but we want to make sure that once we continue to reach out to LPs, which we had done in the past, we want to make sure that this time we come well prepared and we have a much more clearer and succinct proposal from the VC fund for the LPs to really know that we are ready and prepared to invest. So that will be sometime in 2020, end of 2021 or 2022. So just going into this pitch, right? So this is just going to be a good example, I think, for you guys to follow. So the first thing I start with, I talk about this big vision, right? This is how I see Africa, right? Young women who have this natural resource that's at the backdrop that really have the opportunity to transform Africa. But what they need are people like you, potentially you, to help them, mentor them, provide funding, but also that platform that can help them not just start the business, but actually sustain the business for a very long time. So this is a big vision that I think also Jamani and what Jamani the Jamani Academy Consulting Platform is trying to do. So this is a story that we see, we envision people like her through the schools in Africa as the individuals that will partner with the other natural resource, which is the land, which is something that is very rich in Africa. And we want to find a way that we can be of support to them in a way that in the long term, they're going to transform the continent of Africa, right? So that's the story. So based on the pitch that I mentioned, the next thing is to introduce yourself. And I think it's better to do that early on so that people know that you're coming from a place of understanding, of deep understanding of the problem or what you're trying to achieve, what in this case, we believe that there's a growing youth population in Africa that by 2050 will have the largest youth population. By over 65% of our population will be the youth, people between the ages of 18 and 35-ish who will be part of the continent. So we have to provide a sustainable platform for them to have jobs, for them to be a positive addition to society, right? And that's where we want to be the training mechanism, the system for them to actually be entrepreneurs to kind of build that platform. So based on my background, I'm interested in emerging markets. I'm interested in building that type of platform, and hopefully I can partner with you on making that a success story. So just the content, and this is something that's always good to do with your pitch decks, provide a good content so people can just visualize and know, okay, these are the next phases that you're going to go through, so that people will not be confused or like, oh, what's the next phase? What's the next thing you need to do or talk about, right? So providing this framework is helpful. So one thing that you always have to start with once you get into the problem is like, what is the market? What are you trying to solve, right? And this is something I list here just to give people to understand, like, this is the space that I'm going to get into for you to understand where I'm coming from. And something that I say is like, we're trying to get into the space of universities and entrepreneurship programs. And one of the really good programs in Africa is the Africa Leadership Academy, which is based in South Africa, and Asachi University, which is based in Ghana, right? These are very interesting organizations that have a lot of, programs set up for people like us, Jamani corporate groups, to partner with them, right? And actually achieve the goal we're trying to achieve, which is of helping them with the curriculums, but also potential portals for where we can, bring in mentors from the Western world and aid them to build, aid the students to actually, build those companies and platforms that will transform Africa, right? So we think this is a critical market opportunity for us to be a part of, so that we can actually, achieve this goal of transforming Africa. So the problems to solve, and this is something that I don't want to really dive into the problem because sometimes it can be daunting. But I brought the problems here, and in that 10 rules of pitch deck, I readjusted this because based on that big picture from the second slide where I mentioned the lady, I wanted to hunt down here and say, hey, based on our market opportunity, this is where we see the problem, right? So there's a lot of pockets in Africa, and where even though you have these universities that try as much as possible to provide, there's still some students within these universities that still need help, and there are also a lot of other universities that we can partner with and bring them into this hub, where students like within Asachi University or African Leadership Academy can partner with them and actually build some really great companies. So we want to be that intermediary between foundations, universities, and organizations where we find competent students to actually, use some of the resources within this universities, foundation organizations to actually build something that is great, right? So we want to be that competent, reliable partner that, most of these organizations might need, because sometimes they run out of capacity, right? So being a liaison between the United States and universities in Africa, but also filling the hubs that we think is critical for some of these already existing organizations like universities and nonprofits that are trying to help young entrepreneurs in Africa thrive, right? So that's the overview of the problem. So the target audience now is major universities in Africa, foundations, academic programs across the ecosystem, and also local and national governments that are interested in entrepreneurship and investment on the continent. So these are some of the universities that we have been looking at. University of Cape Town, with Witwatersrand, Makerere University, Pretoria, University of Pretoria, University of Ghana, Nairobi. So these are some universities that we think are prime targets for kind of what we can fit in and find those, be the intermediary between already existing organizations, already existing organizations, and being that intermediary and filling the loopholes that are necessary for every young entrepreneur to have the opportunity to transform Africa. So these are the clients that we've honed down to, and these 2 clients, because we believe these are the clients that are accessible to us, and based on our position in Africa, in Uganda, these are the people that we can likely reach out to start the conversation. Proposed solution. So after reaching out to these universities, who are interested in development and entrepreneurship, and we provide networks and in-person meets definitely after COVID-19. And we think this is a proposed solution that is very attainable and is also feasible. So going back to the 10 rules, I've already gone through problems. I clearly stated, the story is still there. I clearly stated like we should frame the story within the ecosystem, which is something that I'm clearly trying to do. I'm not just stating probably like youth entrepreneurship is less, but I'm saying that there's this whole ecosystem, which I've clearly mentioned in the pitch, in the 10 rules to pitch perfectly, that you have to list out the ecosystem clearly. Because when you list the ecosystem, people can be able to see the broad picture. And now I'm trying now to put myself into this ecosystem, right? This is what we feed, because at the end of the day, you always function within an ecosystem. And the ecosystem in this case is the education ecosystem. I'm not just focusing on the school, but also focusing on the organizations that help in, also focusing on the youth entrepreneurship development programs, right? So I think providing an ecosystem can be helpful for people to get the big context, the macro context. So now summarizing now, I'm trying to fit myself in, which is one of the 10 rules I mentioned. I think it's highly critical for you to convey how impactful you're going to be, right? And also I mentioned one of the rules was also to list out your time, your team very early on, and I'm going over the place, but that's a very important rule to list early on in your pitch. So this is a process, something that I mentioned also in the 10 rules. We'll start with the connections we have in East Africa, because that's what we started. We'll make connections through friends, our friends of friends in East Africa. Then later on, we'll go through LinkedIn and attending conferences to build a platform. So for the people that we're reaching out to be potential consultants, so we'll have a fee compensation. So every school that we partner with, you have 20% of the compensation of the fee compensation you have. And if you mentor a group of students tentatively, they build a startup that can lead to something fruitful, you get 2 to 3% of the compensation, right? So I think this is smart for young consultants in the Western world to partner with us. You get this compensation. One is upfront, the other one is later on. If you're traveling to Africa tentatively after COVID, at this point in time, the travel compensations will be from the consultant. Some universities might be willing to cover that, but at this point in time, we encourage consultants who are interested in traveling to Africa to be able to afford for the travel expenses. And one of the things that makes me really excited about the continent is that there are already success stories, right? That young African entrepreneurs, provided with the right resources and the right mentors and entrepreneurship networks, they can build really, really successful companies. So I listed 3 companies here that have done really well in Africa. Andela was actually backed by Facebook and Google. I think it was like 6 years ago, 4 to 6 years ago. Mark Zuckerberg himself visited the Nigeria office. And this was co-founded by, by a Cameroonian, a Nigerian, some folks from a lady from the US, I think, and it was a very diverse group of people. But you could tell these were young people that have the potential to build really successful companies, and they had the right success story and the success story that everybody craves for, but they were able to build up with a very good support system, right? Paystack actually just got bought out by Stripe, and the numbers out there sounds like it's 200 million US dollars. But just some very young, savvy Nigerian entrepreneurs that had the right support, right? So we want to be part of these stories, right? These are a few stories here, and some people consider this as unicorn stories, but we believe there are more stories like this across Africa. And with our framework of partnering with universities and being at the intersection between connecting consultants here with university students, as well as finding that space, that gap, that missing spot, and filling in resources for already existing organizations can actually do good and do well for these young entrepreneurs that might not be able to have access to resources because that maybe the already existing organizations have run out of capacity. So another interesting data that I'm trying to point out here is, Africa now, I mean, this data is kind of outdated, but I think, to some extent, it's still relatively true in some regards, and probably have to update this, but, Africa has the economic rate of FDI. This is an FDI, foreign direct investment inflows is the highest. It's highest in Africa, 1.4% versus 9.1% Asia, 8.9% in Latin America, 7.1% globally. So data like this show that Africa, being part of that entrepreneur ecosystem, you're able to benefit in the long term, especially when our consultants get 2 to 3% out of the entrepreneurs that they support. Right. So this is just one of the data that show that being part of the entrepreneur ecosystem in Africa on a macro level can have that, you can be part of the macro representation, which in this case, 11.4% is relatively high compared to Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Again, this is from 2006 to 2011. Many things have happened with COVID, but it's just a very interesting space for consultants to get consultants, but also partners to be a part of this. And through Jamani, we want to actually be that platform where we connect people to contribute to this platform. So this is our vision: 2021, start in Uganda; 2022, scale to Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda; 2023, you go to West Africa. Then we hope to even go, broaden out. If we do well in Africa, we can actually, we're thinking of bringing consultants from Asia, right? South Korea, as well as broaden to South Africa, and Zimbabwe, and getting clients from Zimbabwe, but also getting consultants from South Korea. So, but we'll see how the first 2 years go, 2021 to 2023, based on the partnerships we have with the universities, and hopefully we can start bringing out consultants not just in the Western world, but also in Asia as well, Southeast Asia. So that's the vision we have. And, when you're always pitching, it's always good to give that vision as well. So yeah, at the end of the day, we want every young entrepreneur in Africa to be successful. Every young entrepreneur in Africa should be successful. And that's what Jamani Academy consulting platform is all about. So I hope this pitch, and you can be the judge, kind of gives an insight about how to make your pitch captivating. I hope this was captivating, but hopefully it gives a sense of how you think about making a pitch that is that connects with the audience, and you feel like there's a bigger vision here beyond just explaining the problem. So I hope this helps, and I'll be releasing more videos in relation to emerging markets, in relation to just being a better entrepreneur, but how you can be a better pitch presenter, and just with more understanding of the market and the emerging markets. And so I'm looking forward to sharing more exciting videos. I'm looking forward to sharing all my experiences with founding companies, connecting with amazing entrepreneurs across emerging markets, which some of them are in my YouTube channel, and just learning more and sharing some tips along the way. So thank you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next